The Florida Panthers get a gutsy win in Las Vegas for their first in 9 tries while losing Barkov and Rodrigues. We're going to discuss how the Panthers special teams carried them through the final 40 minutes.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, January 5th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So the Florida Panthers, they go into Vegas and they now guarantee a 500 4-game road trip, but this wasn't easy for the Panthers as they lose Evan Rodrigues early on, and then as soon as he comes back, Aleksander Barkov goes down, and the Panthers had to play the final 40 minutes with 10 forwards. But after trailing 1-0 early on in the game, the Panthers score 4 unanswered, 2 of them on the power play, and go a perfect 6 for 6 on the PK. But for this one, it was a big character culture setting win for the Florida Panthers on Thursday night at T-Mobile Arena. And it is a Friday, which means it is a Fairbanks Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And Nick, it's 1:19 a.m. and as the great Scott Van Pelt says, I am not tired yet, and I am pumped up after this one. How are you feeling, my friend?
I feel like this one was a long time coming, and it almost makes me wonder what it would have been like last June, if this team was healthy. I mean, I know that they lost Rodrigues and they lost Barkov early in the game, but it seems like the game plan didn't change. They were stepping up in the neutral zone. The defense was playing spectacular. I want a rematch. That's what got me pumped up. I want a rematch in June of this exact caliber.
That would be a definitely a fun rematch, and the Panthers and the Golden Knights. I mean, when you go into a playoff series as well, and then the history after that, it creates that rivalry, even though in a different conference as well. I mean, the Miami Heat and the Dallas Mavericks had that in 2006 and 2011. Let's not forget that. So there is that historic rivalry as far as that. And coming into this game, no Nick Cousins, obviously with the concussion protocol. And then on the other side, no William Karlsson for Vegas. And then Grigory Denisenko draws in for the Vegas Golden Knights as well. His Vegas Golden Knights debut, by the way. And with the Panthers, I mean, think about this. Early on into the game, the Vegas Golden Knights score 3:15:09 to be exact, and that was and think about it, when the Panthers gave up that goal to Dorofriev, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. That was on the block shot by Evan Rodrigues, and the Panthers really couldn't set up from there because he couldn't get off the ice there after that. But then when you think about the game, I mean, it was 10-1 shots on goal at one point in that one. But what the Panthers were doing were they were winning key faceoffs, generating speed through that neutral zone after that, and really when Barkov went out with that, getting the elbow to the face from Alec Martinez, which was not intentional. You saw that the Panthers had to really, before that, they were double shifting Lundell and Bennett on that top line, but then you had to be 10 forwards and putting Gadjovich in on that second line from time to time as well. But I mean, the cleanliness of the Panthers going through the neutral zone as well really improved and all. They were communicating well on give and goes as well, consistently back checking. I mean, you can't coach back checking in the NHL in any level of hockey. That has to come from within for guys. But also, I mean, think about Sergei Bobrovsky when it was 1-0. 3 major stops on Jonathan Marchessault and one big one shortly after the Vegas Golden Knights scored. I mean, going into that second period, I mean, 35 seconds in, the Panthers get a penalty, and then it snowballs from there. Kulikov goes, Ekblad goes, which I believe Ekblad, if he didn't hook, I think it was Stevenson. I think that would have been a goal, honestly, on that quick zone entry. And then Kevin Stenlund, got to give him a shout out. Key defensive zone draws, and there was one on the 5-on-3 where he's battling multiple VGK players and then clearing it up the ice as well to take some seconds off. And man, was that a big momentum changer for the Panthers after that? And man, the D getting on the score sheet as well. More than the broadcast at one point was saying 5 points for the 5 points for the D on the night as well. So and think about that 5-on-3, all 3 guys who went to the penalty box were defensemen. So making up for what happened earlier in the game.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes of the game was probably your worst case scenario. I mean, Florida is coming in. They haven't won a game at all in Vegas ever, even, dating back to, when they came into the league, even in the Stanley Cup Finals. But, it kind of, scared everybody. The first 5 minutes, Bob saves one. And unfortunately, Rodrigues goes down with that shot block. And it seems like everybody's scrambling and nobody picks up the garbage that is in the middle of the slot there, and they just put it in. So can't really blame Bob there. He did his job, just nobody cleared out that rebound. But then after that, they continued to fight the puck and make neutral zone turnovers, which allowed Vegas to really kind of really try to take the game over. But Bob, true to his name for the last, I want to say year now, has been that $10 million goalie and just making the saves to keep the team in it. And I know Randy said, that on that Marchessault save that, if the Panthers win, we'll be looking back on this. And sure enough, that was the only one that got past him, and everything was gravy after that. Once Barkov and Rodrigues left, you saw a shift in the Panthers just trying to simplify their game. They weren't trying to do anything really fancy. They were just trying to get pucks to the net. They were trying to get the pucks deep and win those battles, and they were winning them, very cleanly. As you said, hats off to Stenlund. I think outside of Bobrovsky, he was the next player that stepped up immediately once Barkov went off, and being able to kill those penalties. I mean, that was just by far the biggest momentum outside of Bobrovsky's save. And I think it gave the team some hope, saying, hey, listen, these guys can't score 5-on-3 on extended 5-on-3s. No, we can do this. We can take over this game.
And one shot on goal throughout that stretch through that as well. And let's talk about Matthew Tkachuk. He was playing like a madman tonight. If for those listening who are not on X, I posted a picture of Anakin Skywalker from Episode 3 of Star Wars with the yellow eyes as he was on Mustafar. And that was basically what Matthew Tkachuk was tonight, consistently on breaking up in the neutral zone and creating some rush chances. The Panthers were using a lot of sauce passes on the two-on-ones as well, and just not all of them connected, but still the fact that they were in sync as far as those as well, and getting those opportunities out front, and then just keeping the Vegas Golden Knights on their toes. I mean, and even let's go back to the first goal as well. The second power play unit. The first power play unit was doing absolutely nothing, and then the second, they're moving the puck quickly. Oliver Ekman-Larsson shot goes off the board, and then Sam Bennett goes into the open net. Crazy. Two of the 4 Panthers goals were redirections. The Carter Verhaeghe one was a big juicy rebound, and then he shoots one into an open net as well. So hats off for the second power play unit to set the tone as well. And Matthew Tkachuk, I said that he was playing like a madman. Gets a power play goal on that, and that shot that the Panthers kept alive. Montour shoots from the point, and then he redirects it in. And then the one that really said kiss and goodbye to the Vegas Golden Knights is that pass that in the center to Sam Reinhart, which teams have been figuring out all season for the most part, as far as the pass inside into the bumper. Well, not all season, but a good portion of the season. But just incredible, the quick passing there as well. So special teams on this night, Nick. Just what more can we say?
Best game that Matthew Tkachuk has played this season by far.
Mm-hmm.
He looked healthy. He looked like he was committed to making a difference in the game, and he looked like he actually wanted to forecheck and win puck battles. I don't mean to say it like this, but there have been times during the season where I've got kind of questioned, if he's putting 100% in or if he's hurt, trying to win those board battles, or if he's just not having a lot of puck luck. I think tonight we finally saw the Matthew Tkachuk that we were used to last year, which is great to see. So maybe 2024, the beginning of it will be a start of something new for him. Just really glad that he was able to get the tip off of Montour's, his shot. That was a set play. And just see him choke up on the stick there and be able to just tip it past there. It was a thing of beauty. It just reminded you of everything he did last season. And then, as far as the Sam Bennett goal and everything, I don't know if that was a set play, but I'm just glad he was there because the second power play unit, again, the theme I have for this show is that they kept it simple. They kept the puck moving. They were not repetitive, or they weren't trying to, I guess, feed it to Barkov the whole time, because that's all the first power play unit was doing is between Montour and Barkov. Barkov back
Mm-hmm.
to Montour.
Playing catch.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys going to shoot the puck and get it towards the net, or are you guys just going to keep playing pass? So I just think the second power play unit gave it another look, and they were more aggressive, more hungry in what they wanted to accomplish, and they were rewarded for it.
Yeah, definitely a tone setter for sure for the Panthers as they tied the game there early, and then the Panthers just went from there and basically tilted the ice. And 2 straight games where the final 40 minutes, the Panthers just tilt the ice their way. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2. Where we're going to discuss more about when we thought this game was won or lost, and our 3 stars of this game. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And the NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is super easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like same game parlays. And you can find bets on the new Explore tab. Make a parlay on the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays and more. And if you want to place some bets on the Florida Panthers continuing their winning streak when they head to Colorado this Saturday, you can put those on FanDuel. Or if you want to place your bets on the Miami Dolphins as they are racing towards the division title in the AFC East and the #2 seed, you can place that all on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment number 2 here on this Friday, January 5th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. So, Nick, 3 stars of the game. I don't believe there are any wrong answers here as far as 3 stars of the game. So whatever. But for me, I got to say the entire second line for me is this are the stars of the game. Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Tkachuk, and the broadcast mentioned this. Carter Verhaeghe, 4 straight games with a goal and an assist. It's game number 38, and he has 20 goals already. Just incredible he's doing. And think about this: the increased ice time that the forwards had with Erod and Barkov not playing the rest of the way. I mean, I'm just trying to look at the ice time. NHL app does not have the ice time actually, but the increased ice time that they had to have, I'm going to look at it while I give you the floor. But just And also, Paul Maurice, let's also give a shout out to the coach. And this had a lot to do with the Panthers sticking to their plan, sticking to their system, and knowing who they are as far as limiting the amount of chances on their goaltender, because Sergei Bobrovsky had to set the tone early, but the rest of the way, as Randy Moeller said, he didn't have to be perfect there and all that.
Yeah, so I mean, getting back to your 3 stars, I would definitely have to say the second line would definitely be up there. I'm definitely going to say that Bennett deserves accolades. I'd probably put him as the 3rd star. I put Tkachuk as the 2nd star, but I had to put Bobrovsky as number 1 because if it wasn't for him in the first period, this game probably was way different, and Panthers are probably down by multiple goals, if not by 3 or 4. So I got to give hats off to him, but the whole second line finally stepped up. They finally stepped up. They played like a first line. They really stepped up in a way that, they knew what was on the line and what they needed to take care of. And it was just awesome to see every single one of them getting on the score sheet tonight. Then you have the defense where I think just every single one of them had a great game. I harp on Ekblad a lot, and I always post the cone on X and everything with him. And he only had one play like that tonight, and it did save a goal, as you mentioned. But other than that, everybody was really good tonight. So if I were to do my 3 stars officially, I'm going to do probably the defense, the second line, and then Bobrovsky, if I could do it that way. Following that, just thinking about what this win means, as you were saying at the top of the show, this could be a culture setter. I mean, for this season going into, the later stages of the season, knowing that they were able to get this weight off of them and knowing that they can win anywhere now, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and listen, the moment that Barkov and Erod went down, I was just thinking, man, this is gonna be a lot for the Panthers to have to manage as far as just trying to get through. This felt like that the Panthers had to go into survival mode as far as that. And man, did the guy step up? I mean, total shots. And the thing is that nobody overwhelmed as far as taking the amount of shots. They were pretty even out. I mean, Bennett had 4, Lundell had 3, Luostarinen had 3, Stenlund had 4, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe all had 4, Ekblad as well. Pretty good distribution of shots. And looking at the ice time as well, there wasn't an overwhelming amount of total time on ice as well. Bennett had 18 minutes. Reinhart had 21. Matthew Tkachuk had 20. So that is also a great job coaching by Paul Maurice as far as that as well. And also credit to Maurice as far as what he's done with Barkov's minutes over the season, even though he went out in this one. His ice time is down, and he's doing more with the less ice time as well. So credit to the coach for managing that. As far as when we thought this game was won or lost, I think this one's easy. The 5-on-3. That has to be the moment where you said, that the Panthers allowing only one shot on goal there. That's the moment.
For me, it was the Verhaeghe goal. I do think the 5-on-3 gave them a really good boost, but they didn't score, I guess, right away after that. But I just think the Verhaeghe goal basically clinched it for them. I think Vegas after that was just pretty much done with the game. They didn't really show a lot of heart. I'm actually surprised that they didn't try to get chippy because that's usually their MO, especially Mark Stone and Marchessault. And, I think they're trying not to take too many liberties because they didn't have Colasar out there tonight. And we already know how to deal with him, right?
Yeah, One Punch Man Ryan Lomberg didn't have his opportunity to go up against him again. So
just had a T-shirt idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So just an overall great night, and we're gonna actually transition over to segment number 3. We're going to discuss more about Sam Reinhart getting a bid for the All-Star game, an extension on the Panthers books, and previewing Saturday's game between the Florida Panthers and the Colorado Avalanche. We're going to discuss that more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper, and it's almost the halfway point of the NHL season. Regardless of where the Panthers are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy contests. All you have to do is pick studs like Sam Reinhart, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and if they will record more or less than the sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Cats fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Back on this Friday, January 5th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Fairbanks Friday edition of the show. And before we continue on with the program, no updates for Barkov and Evan Rodrigues until tomorrow, per Coach Paul Maurice. And the Panthers, they will be practicing. They will have a 3 p.m. Eastern practice from T-Mobile Arena tomorrow, right before they travel to Colorado. So we will know at around 3 p.m. tomorrow about the updates on Barkov and Evan Rodrigues. And according to Jameson Olive of FloridaPanthers.com, Maurice says it's one of his favorite wins of the year. Can't blame him. I really can't blame him. So Nick, some good news is we did get the announcement of who will be the Panthers representative for the All-Star game this year in Toronto, which will be going on in the first weekend of February. It'll be February 2nd and 3rd from Scotiabank Arena. It's going to go back to the draft version of the All-Star game, going back to when the last one they did in Columbus at Nationwide Arena. And Uvis Balinskis, remember him? I know. He hasn't been here for a while, and that's the great thing about having depth and what the Panthers did early on in the season with Uvis Balinskis being part of the mix. But he has been given a 2-year extension by the Florida Panthers. So some great news as far as that for the Florida Panthers, because we all know that Oliver Ekman-Larsson is just 1 year here and likely going to get paid somewhere else. Still no word on extensions for Gus Forsling and Brandon Montour on the defensive front. Still have to find out Sam Reinhart. And day by day, he seems like he's pricing himself out of Florida, in my opinion. But Uvis Balinskis, a great find, great for the scouting department to find him at the World Championships, playing in the Extraliga in Czechia, and the Latvian is getting a chance in the NHL. And this is and going back to Bill Zito's press conference at the beginning of the season and media day, putting the emphasis on Charlotte, and Balinskis was actually named defenseman of the month of the week for the Charlotte Checkers, averaging a point per game as a defenseman there too. So the playing professional hockey, the experience there, and then taking it to the first part of the season, then to the NHL, then to the AHL, excuse me, and then getting a 2-year extension. Man, what a great situation for the future of the Panthers.
Reminds me of a defenseman that they had last season that they picked up off of waivers or that they signed. His name is Josh Mahura, I believe.
Hmm.
It's just awesome that Zito and the management have such great scouting and being able to pick up players that not only can make an impact right now, but also they don't have to, stretch themselves thin as if something doesn't work out, or, let's just say, hey, we have to pay somebody, how are we going to be able to figure out the salary cap? I think this signing gives a little bit more room for Zito and Co. to actually go out and actually either re-sign both Montour and Forsling, or be able to bring in another fish later on if they can't afford those two, or even Reinhart. So it's a good way of doing business, and it shows that your department knows what they're doing, that they can be trusted, and that the best decision will always be made by the collective that they have.
Yeah, no doubt. And I meant to say defenseman of the month, not defenseman of the week, by the way,
Eh,
as far as Uvis Balinskis, but still just a great run that he had in the month of December for the Charlotte Checkers. And just he'll be back. He'll be back for the Panthers. And that's a great thing for as far as that for the Cats. And just as far as trying to create that depth with the blue line, even if Balinskis' role isn't a huge one, you're still finding those diamonds in the rough. And going back to Mahura, the fact that he played 82 games and the depth increased and he's the odd man out, as far as a
mhm.
team perspective, you can't ask for anything better when it's that situation where that happens with the Panthers. So turning the page to Saturday, which not a late game for the Panthers. 4 p.m. puck drop Eastern time, 2 p.m. Mountain time in Colorado. The Avalanche are coming off an overtime win against the Dallas Stars. Nathan MacKinnon, he's been on an absolute heater and it struggled with injuries last season. I mean, you saw Mikko Rantanen a good portion of the season carrying the Colorado Avalanche while Nathan MacKinnon was hurt. But then also I spoke about the Vegas Golden Knights going through the motions currently as it stands. But even though the Colorado Avalanche have 7 wins in their last 10, a few weeks ago it wasn't going so well for them. And even
Mm-mm.
Devon Tays called out the team in the media saying some guys they think they're playing well, but when they aren't. And I'm like, wow, this isn't necessarily your big superstar player. It's a leader on the team, a guy you gave up a lot of draft capital for, 2 second-round picks, and you extended, but still part of that
Mhm.
top pair. So the leadership and him calling out, it's valid for someone like Devon Tays to call him out. And look how they've responded because, spoke about the dog days of the NHL season. We're kind of in that right now. And it was the same. And when you win, you know, it's the NHL's the regular season, you're just trying to get through. And man, have the Avalanche responded. And they're tops of the division along with Dallas and Winnipeg. Winnipeg has been a great story this year, even
Yep.
without Kyle Connor. But still, this is going to be not an easy matchup for the Florida Panthers going into Colorado. And let's not forget what happened last year's matchup. The Florida Panthers go in, I believe it was a 5-1 lead in the final period, and Colorado comes storming back, and the Florida Panthers still end up winning that game. A little bit of a scare, but the Panthers they haven't they haven't swept nobody swept the season series in the last few years. It's been equal back and forth as far as that for the Panthers and the Avalanche, and just the correlations continue are as far as rebuilding history. I mean, 2013 draft, 2011, 2015 as well. So many connections still with these two organizations, and Georgiev playing on the top of his game as well. They let go of Kemper a few years ago, and still
Mhm.
Georgiev has at least been steady for the Avalanche.
He has, and he leads the NHL in overall wins, which a lot of people don't really like looking at, goalie wins as a stat. But, we have our own guy, Bobrovsky, who's now second, I think, with 19. And I think, he would love to get another one and be in the 20s, before the All-Star break. And that would just be a phenomenal thing for him. But to say that Colorado Avalanche have not really played up to their standards, they haven't, over the last year, and mainly it's because of injuries. I mean, they haven't had Landeskog in forever. And the jury's still out what's going to happen with him. You have McKinnon, who's banged up, who's been playing pretty well, but it just hasn't really taken that next gear until the last week or two. Ratanen's always been there. Makar's been injured here and there, but he's still himself. I'm just wondering when this team is actually going to be fully healthy and when they're going to all put it together. Because I think right now this is just the tip of the iceberg, and they're going to run away with the Central if Dallas doesn't do anything about it. But going to the matchup on Saturday, it makes you wonder if Barkov can't play, if Rodrigues can't play, what is this lineup going to look like? Is it going to be the Bennett Tkachuk show on the first line? Are they going to call up Samoskevich? Are they going to call up Sordiff? What is the plan going to be? Because listen, this Colorado team is deep and they have multiple weapons that can take you out. And you can't rely on Bob the whole entire game. You're going to have a team plan, which Florida does. But at times, they might falter. So you really have to go in with a solid game plan, and everybody has to know what their assignments are. And number one is stopping Nathan McKinnon.
Especially with how how fast he can skate through the neutral zone. He gains speed. It's game over most times when he's
yeah.
And let's not also forget. Let's also not forget how the veterans that they've gotten who has won somewhere else in like a Ross Colton, and then someone who wasn't part of a retooling plan in Nashville in Ryan Johansson, and also Valery Nichushkin. They extended him after they won the cup, but man, he's still that net front presence on the power play as well. So he is dangerous as well. So there's not a lot of weaknesses on this team as well, and they're just continuing to run it back. I mean, they have Nathan McKinnon's friend from junior hockey in Jonathan Drouin. So that is
twice tonight
storyline as well. So we'll see about what happens there as far as that. But there's so many just dangerous players on the Colorado Avalanche, and it's gonna be a difficult one. But hey, never say never, and we'll know. And the worst part about this, honestly, with the Barkov injury, is Saturday would have been game number 700 and going up against McKinnon too in the same draft. That would have been awesome for the only Florida Panther to play 700 games, and Nathan McKinnon being on the other side of it. So that would have been unfortunate. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll know more about it tomorrow. So no show tomorrow, but follow me on X and all the people who cover the Florida Panthers on X for more Barkov updates, and we'll come back next week and discuss more about that game, and hopefully the Florida Panthers on their way to an even better road trip, as they already guarantee 500. But Nick, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Friday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, a late night Fairbanks Friday, 1:50 a.m. as it shows on our clocks here. So tell everybody where they can follow you online.
It's great to be on again, especially for our first win in Vegas. Everybody can follow me on X at Prudentious0. Looking to be back next week. Hopefully we can be talking about maybe 8, 9. We want 10 wins.
Yeah, by that time the Panthers will be returning home, and it'll be 90s night against the LA Kings at home. So
there you go.
Hopefully we'll be talking about that then. But Nick, thank you so much, and see you next week, my friend.
See you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Sue Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nick Fairbanks, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.